Thank you for that. I think, no, before we go on, I just want to also say thank you actually for reaching out to me and having this opportunity. I'm actually very honored and I feel privileged to be on your forum as your platform and being able to share my experience in what I'm doing. And I know a lot of people say it is very unique. There's not many people like that doing this. And so, firstly, I'm very honored to come and share a bit about what my life has been working with snakes and the interesting ups and downs. And you get fun along the way, and yeah, you have your ups and downs. So yeah, working with snakes. So that thing of loyalty, and I think it's really following your passion. Huh? And I wanted to do that, so. Maybe if I can just share a bit about, my background and where I started, and then, yeah, we
Yes,
can follow on from there. So,
yes.
uh, ever since I was small, and this is a lot of people have the similar experiences. It's, when you're in your childhood, a lot of your later experiences in life, your foundations are built there. And, for children, it's those first 5, 7 years of life that you really set down some basic fundamentals and characteristics of yourself as a person and individual. And so me man logo, like I literally was growing up on my own. So there's three of us. I'm the eldest of three. I had a gap between myself and my sister. So she's 4 years younger than I am. So I literally had, you know, oh, sorry, 6 years younger than I am. Sorry, I was using and I literally had run of the mill. It was just me and my mom and dad. So me plabin start mo spina. Most of the time, I'm always out in the backyard. I know at man lo pilay one time, either the neighbors, so but I'm always on my own. And I always had an animal with me, and most of the time it was a cat. So all throughout my life, I've always had cats with me. And I was like, hey, nah. I recall a particular photo that they took of me and me being stand up lo grass lo untlaos being star lo Tokarara. And I was in the grass just like knee high. In a millilit monkey, maybe I was probably maybe about 11 or something or 10, something like that. I had no shirt on, process tasol, na misanap, na pusikat ya, sanap lo leg to me, and there was something in my hand I was holding. Then me been asking mama na mama to, you had this thing where you, by God, you'll collect every single creature out in the yard and bring it back into the house and try to keep it as a pet. And you were just collecting lizards and all creepy crawlies, ants, one kind of ant lions up on it, the house number 10, and Misa come talking me, hey, did you? Um, but so yeah, I had a fascination with nature and animals from a young age, and I think that built, further on in life. And so, um, but then my other question was that I always wanted to be a pilot, because especially ke balus na talking like only flying with balus. In the short of it, okay, year 12 of me, and after that, I was successful into getting to the Eligini pilot cadet scheme, the testing phases. So. Went right down from selection of what I think 1,000 applicants, going down to 300, and then down to 20. So
Mm.
I was in that last 20, and then out of that they do the last five selection to continue the pilot training program in Adelaide. Um, I didn't make it through that phase, but I was just in time to register for the Science Foundation at at the UPMC. So literally after grade 12, we plugged in stuff. 1 week intensive gateway working more testing about. But maybe planning is something different, but I mean, you know, your passion, you
Yes,
try to
yes,
follow what your passions are. Okay, if
yeah.
flying was what you want to do, and you're so interested in planes and everything, you like, okay, so. And then so on the side, there's these things of, you know, liking animals and nature and 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 yeah. So I think, you know, as a child and as you're growing up, to young adult, you know, it's like kind of you actually
Mm,
build your passions and your hobbies and what interests you, and this could really actually uh, be useful later in life. It's the things that they don't teach you in school.
mm,
The things that you don't actually learn in school, how to be a person, and maybe it's lacking in our guidance classes and our personal development classes. It's not strengthened enough. Like how do we reach out to our younger generations to change their mindset to be thinking of all the things that makes them develop personally as a person as well. Um, you know, those hobbies and interests that you have could actually be beneficial later in the future in what you do and what career choices you're making uh, and what exists out there. So anyway, there you go. Yeah, I was literally just following the crowd going to science foundation and then on to medicine.
yes,
So
yes.
they said, okay, like, okay, medicine, guaranteed job and a house, that type of thing. You know, as a young person, you're
What,
looking for that
if I
system.
can inject, bro, what year were
Mm.
you in MBBS too? I'm trying to recall the year, but
Okay, uh,
I can't.
MBBS two, it was in, I believe, 1999. 98, I started my foundation, and 99, I was in
99. I see.
MBBS two, yeah. Um, yeah, so I started in 1999. I had a bit of a repeat as well in I think the year 4 and 5 as well. But it was in those years that when you repeat something, this is one thing I learned. When you repeat
Mm,
something, it sets even more concrete later that you never forget. And it's even better. And perhaps that's one thing that we, as maybe, I mean, it's only thoughts and things and tertiary level, you know, as you start streamlining students right from national high school,
right.
as they come in, you know. Yes, so I repeated a year. I think it was fourth year or fifth year, one of those years. But by then I had already, you know, said, like, you know, in my mind, I was in conflict. Like, I don't really want to end up being a medical doctor treating sick people. I mean, the passion for others, and I appreciate that. But it probably wasn't the thing for me. Um, and because, you know, you have your land experience from not making it into the pilot program, you say, okay, it might be something else. Maybe this is not really it. But I knew that. So then I sat down and said, what are my strengths? And I love lab work and I love research. I love finding out about how things work. Yeah, I think by then I had already sort of tried to work out my strengths. It was pretty late, you know, in the course as well. And this is where I was thinking, like, maybe for a lot of other people too, who might go through the same experiences of saying that they're not really settled in the career choices that they make.
Yes, yes.
So I was in that category maybe. So I was half-heartedly doing clinical things and work and, you know, attending lectures and clinical rounds and presentation. And I wasn't one to stand up in front of crowds and talk because I was always somewhat of an introvert. Misalnya stuff. Yeah, but I mean, sampai buat kira na talk no you get you want to talk. Um, but now I think, yeah, after, you know, you develop that over time that
Yeah.
it's this thing of, you know, if you don't know, then you fear that somebody in the crowd might ask you something that you don't know. And, you know, I never took it on that it's all right not to know.
Mm, mm.
It's all right to say, I don't know. I
Yes,
think if we did something else, then we might have an answer, or somebody might know it. But it's recognizing those limitations that you have as well. So, I think yeah, plenty of life experience, right? Everyone has their own each and own thing and how they go through life and experience. So for me, that was some of those things. So having this confidence to stand up in a crowd and talk and talk about something that you about and in and out of most of what's there, because we can never learn all there is to know.
Very true. Very true.
We're always continuing to learn something new yeah, every other time. So
The more you
I think
know,
that's a good.
the more you realize, the less you know.
Yeah, it's a it's a paradox. So
Yes.
at the point you reach some saturation level, or just like
Yeah.
I just said, minun upside, I mean, we go stop lopilesta solo.
Exactly.
I don't know. Yeah. Maybe Sampla in your parents meet or before kind of saying you got very strict standard way of saying by you also no sema. But I think Sampla plenty old monkey, they want to do something else and not what their parents want them to do. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm something very we can thinking and we'll allow them to let them fail, let them have, okay, you didn't make it through that course, maybe there's something else, it's fine. Okay, maybe I spent money on this to put you in there, but I make every opportunity available that I can for you. And as long as you are happy in what path you taken, I will support you all the way through. It's like that.
Exactly.
So, I think, yeah, that's an important thing to live thinking long term too. Just for the record, Mama Blumi, like in me, look, I'm a pilot, and then when I chose working with snakes, and she's very scared of snakes, like him too, but I had a patient with me said, Mom, like I like working with snakes. I got to love snakes. Um, yeah, so I think online law, POMNet. So I went to Gerehu High School. Then we were pioneers of POMNets, Port Moresby National High School, and it was there too. So time you young play, you do silly things as well. Mikla bin kisiwan pla carpet snake na mina narapla mangi tolai. He's now a captain of ships. He's la mangi tolai. I will not call his name here for his privacy. But he will know if when he sees it,
I'm sure he will know who he is when he
he will
watches
know
this.
what I'm talking about. Islam mangi ya mikla bin kisiwan pla carpet snake na. Putin maran lo nek lo mi. With another narapla mangi book again to. Uh, Mangi bougainvillea, I should say. They put a snake around the neck, and only him been around one of them. And then so I got the snake off them, put it around the neck on me, and then we covered it with the shirt. Head blow snake, we stop on top of head blow me, and we put it cap. So we said we will just go around to the girls or monkey, pop him cap, and give them a little bit of a scare. So I was doing that in national high school already, holding snakes and things, and then it came almost like second nature, like creepy crawlies going into the bush, all these like that. So yeah, I think that was already in place. So time may come,
Right.
so it was in the third year, and then there was that option to do the basic medical research, and I said I think I will do that, but I will do something different. So I
Mm.
applied to the university council to say that can I do the Bachelor of Medical Science degree, which is part of MBBS as an option, and I want to do it as an exit course rather than as a continuation of MBBS.
Mm.
And they allowed for it. So they allowed for it at that time, and I think we got to thank a lot of our superiors who were there as well in the changing landscape of education at the SHU
Yes.
level.
Yes.
Uh, and I acknowledge Professor John Vince, retired, uh, recently retired, for being very instrumental in a lot of these things, as well as Professor Lovi Mataino. Yeah. So, and then there's a few others as well in being able to make this possible for myself to exit um, with a Bachelor of Medical Science degree. So that's exactly what I did in 2004. And year after that, I applied again to UPNG for the postgraduate scholarship scheme under UPNG and got into a master's program under the medical science. So, Master of Medical Science program I got into, sponsored. And
And
that
those
was
two
all
are
because
purely research programs,
it
right?
was purely research, yeah, purely research focus and origin, yeah, everything. So I did my undergraduate Bachelor of Medical Science looking at betel nut. So when I was making those changes, and I talk about Professor Lohi Matainao, who's been very instrumental in my foundation for going this path for research. He provided a lot of ideas and support for me, and as well as a lot of other young peers of ours as well. Um, and he had his drug discovery laboratory there. And I wanted to join that and be part of that. So I got involved in some of the drug discovery work he was doing on the natural products in PNG, which was excellent because I learned a few more other techniques that I don't think I would have known anywhere else. But started to broaden my horizon of what possibilities we could be actually doing. And then we had Dr. David Williams, who was actually, associated with the lab as well and working with Professor Matainaho, who was there doing research work on snake bite in Papua New Guinea and looking for solutions for it. And, that's one of the greatest influences I have in going into this career is having a mentor such as David and his background, saying that, we are so close, Australia and Papua New Guinea, we share basically same, landmass, if you will, and also animals. So Papua New Guinea, we say we gave the birds to Australia. We share some of the birds there, but they gave us the snakes. So all of the snakes that we have are very similar and related to the ones in Australia, except for one, which is New Guinea small-eyed snake. That's only found in PNG, and that came from Asia. So, um, so yeah, when Dr. David was there, David at the time he was doing his PhD, so he wasn't a doctor yet, but he was doing his PhD at the University of Melbourne. But based in PNG. So he found that there was no platform for getting statistics and data for snakebite. So he actually went about to say, I need to get data, but I don't have data, so I have to create a platform where I can actually get data. So that involved talking to health ministry, the Department of Health, a lot of people, and to say, look, I'd like to do this, and I like to do this honestly and with integrity, and say, I actually want to bring back health and change for people who are actually suffering from snake bite here. As compared to Australia, you get maybe like 3 deaths a year. Papua New Guinea was well over 100 deaths per year or something like that. Until we actually do the statistics, we will know the actual burden of morbidity, incidences, and mortality from snakebite in Papua New Guinea, and which really should not be a death sentence, which was his motto. Snakebite should not be a death sentence. If there's medicine for it, there's help that's there. So why the disparity between PNG and Australia? We have the same snakes. Okay, maybe they have better ambulance services and flying doctors and the rest of it, but still, like, 3 deaths compared to, something well in the hundreds, we shouldn't be losing even one life. It is too many. So he set about doing that, and I was looking for a little gap in research and a niche where I could fit in, and I said everyone was scared of snakes working. No one wanted to join him, and I raised my hand and said, yeah, I'll volunteer. So that's when my journey took the course. After I did my undergraduate, I did trace elements in betel nut, looking to see if some sort of indirect influence of trace elements and immunity that people have and all of that. I learned a lot of chemistry techniques there and spending some time at Unitech at the National Analysis Laboratory. and then analyzing the samples as well. But after that, I went straight into snakebite research, doing my master's, and I focused on the New Guinea small-eyed snake and looking at its complete. I wanted to isolate and characterize every single toxin that it could produce, that it produced, and what it could make but didn't make. So, looking at three different what will I say, facets of research related to venom proteins and toxins. So I started my master's, maybe it was around that time, 2005, 6, but again, it extended a bit because then I I spent some time in different laboratories. So, like at the Queensland Institute of Medical Research, I spent some time there learning genomic work. So, actually getting the DNA sequence from the venom gland of the snakes that produce so the venom gland produces the genes that produces the venom proteins and toxins. And so I learned a bit of those techniques there at the Queensland Institute of Medical Research at the Cancer Lab, Cancer and Radiation Biology Laboratory. I was under Professor Martin Levin. He's still there, I believe. And a lot of his graduates have gone on to do even more. They were looking for anti-cancer agents, and they found that in some venoms they possess some anti-cancer agents. So even from our taipans in Papua New Guinea. So they were interested in that, and there's a collaborative exchange type of program. I got into that, spent a 2-month attachment there in Brisbane. As well as that, I spent some time in Melbourne as well, doing attachment at University of Melbourne at the Australian Venom Research Unit. And this is all facilitated, with this network and connection with Dr. Dave Williams and in fostering those pathways to build and develop young scientists. So around that time as well, we both sat down, and we applied for funding from the Australian National Health and Medical Research Council, and we saw that. So with initial studies we did, we compared the taipans of Australia and the taipans of Papua New Guinea. First was to say like, okay, what snakes were actually biting people and causing people to die? And we found that it's not the Papuan black, although people were calling it the Papuan black, it's actually the Papuan taipan. So even in the 80s, the Papuan taipan existed here. But the thing is, they're both dark colored or black colored snakes. Taipans can range from black to gray to brown. They're the typical reddish stripe on the back, like a racing car. Whereas Papuan black is all black all over. It's gunmetal black, and there's only a white sheen. But the thing is that the Papuan black it was relatively rare, and it was a very shy snake. Whereas the taipan just come out any time of day it wants to and just go anywhere because it knew what it could do. So the bites that were actually happening were actually from taipans. So then we said, okay, what's the difference between taipans in PNG and taipans in Australia? Is there any difference? Is there something significant? And we found that, okay, from genetic studies, it was closely related to the Australian coastal taipan. And basically probably the same snake, if you will. But then our taipan in PNG, in the southern region of PNG, it had developed where I think maybe from challenges of diet and environment and things like that, it produced more of the same toxins than the Australian one. And possibly even some more added extra things in there that it was producing. So we showed that in a paper that we published, and then that led to then say, look, this is the snake that's causing most of the snakebite incidences and mortalities in PNG. Let's see if we can find a solution. Let's find some funding from some research organization and council to help us. And we applied to the Australian National Health and Medical Research Council, and we were given a substantial amount of Australian dollars I think it was 1.4 million Australian dollars worth of research to do. So with that, that enabled us to actually set up a dedicated serpentarium where we kept snakes for research. It also helped us to facilitate and establish a really good laboratory where we could do both our venom research as well as uh, doing some coagulation profile testing for patients that we intended to be looking after in a clinical trial. So what we applied for was funding to run a clinical trial or to produce an antivenom, sorry, firstly, um, and then run a clinical trial, which is sort of is the gold standard, as you know, for research. And so with a lot of discussions and meetings, both with the National Department of Health and also the Port Moresby General Hospital and also the university and some key players in that, Professor Teflorani, and many others within the sector, health sector, too, very supportive of the idea to do it and try it out. So we partnered in collaboration with the University of Melbourne, and there's an institute in Costa Rica, the University of Costa Rica, called the Institute of Clodomiro Picado. So they were producing antivenom for their own country's needs, and they were producing in surplus.
I see.
So for them, we reached out to them through our research network contacts here, Dr. David, a few of them there, and said, look, can we work together and collaborate and produce something? Because we went to the manufacturer of antivenom for PNG in Australia, and well, someone told us that it couldn't be done in PNG because we don't have the facilities, we don't have the expertise, we're still a developing country, we don't have infrastructure for it. And we said, we'll try, we'll give it a try. So, they told us we can't do it, and we did it almost like a gold standard. And so we collaborated with the Institute Clodomiro Picado, ICP, part of the University of Costa Rica. And so what happened was we kept a number of adult Papuan taipans that we extracted venom from, and we dried down to powder, but so it still maintained its activity, and we shipped it off to Costa Rica, where they also trialed new antivenom production techniques. It's called caprylic acid fractionation, or they purify. So basically, they put the venom, inject the venom into horses. After about 2 months, 3 months or so, the horses built enough antibodies, and then they collect the blood from the horse, and then they purify. It goes through a purification process, and antiviral, all other things added, and then it's bottled. So the antibodies are bottled. We were able to produce about 300 vials from 20 bags or so, something like that, if I can recall correctly. And that enabled us to be able to carry out a clinical trial, initially double-blinded. So in clinical trials, there's always, there's 2 or 3 phases. The main phase is phase 1, and then phase 2. Phase 1 is safety and dosage efficacy. So studies, so you check whether it's safe for normal population to receive this. And the thing for us is because we had created something and we tested already in the laboratory that it actually reversed neurotoxicity and coagulopathy in the test in the lab. So we were confident that it would work in our patients as well. And so there was no real risk of anything else except for anaphylaxis or allergic reaction, which we could safely handle with correct, health protocol or treatment protocols, I would say, for adverse reaction.
Yes.
And we work closely, of course, with the department, the Port Moresby General Hospital, and the emergency staff there, and the ICU staff as well, and consultants to say, okay, this is how we can do it. and it was really good. So yeah, basically we started the phase 1 safety study, and that passed. And once that passed, then we said, okay, then we can move to a phase 2, which is basically collecting the numbers of, what it's actually, that's the real part of it. And, so, that we did and we completed. Right now, though, I think, well, things happened that we didn't, uh, we completed the trial and everything, but we were not able to publish our results as yet. Okay, so we still have that data with us, but we can confidently say that it was 3 times better at reversing the coagulopathy than compared to the Australian product, because the antibodies were made very specifically for the taipans in our country. So having some basic understanding, basic science understanding, and then applying it into practice actually made a huge turnaround difference. So with our product, we were seeing patients who get bitten today were literally walking out of the emergency or the hospital the next day. Whereas with the Australian product, they're still not actually, uh, especially if they came late or even if they came early, it wasn't really effective at neutralizing some of those toxins, so those, hemotoxins and the neurotoxins especially, so that the patients, ended up on the mechanical ventilator in the ICU. And then it posed its own problems again there with, clinicians having to differentiate between what is a cause from the snake bite or the venom toxins itself, or what is a follow-on. Yeah. So yeah, we continue to do so even with the product that we had created. It's not to say like, okay, if we always ask for permission to try life for patients and guardians. But we wanted to offer them something that even if you're not part of the tribe, we will still treat you.
Right.
So that they didn't feel like, okay, there's a selection criteria for me getting the medicine or anything like that. And I think one big thing that came out a lot of things came out of it, but when people in the rural area started hearing that there was a snakebite clinic in the emergency, that there was a team that would attend to them, that there was a dedicated snakebite ambulance, which we actually used funds from that we got from the research funding to actually buy the vehicle. We kitted it out ourselves, put the stickers on, got the sirens, got everything in place, in the back of the vehicle too as well. We ourselves actually uh, changed it around, took the seats out, put a forward-facing seat for the doctor, and allowed a space for a stretcher, which was donated by the Queensland Ambulance Service, second-hand stretcher. Then we put in shelving for all our medical consumables and equipment. We had a portable oxygen in there. We had a portable mechanical ventilator. We had an infusion pump for giving drugs or antivenom right on the spot right away. So basically, a very mobile ICU, if you will. And then we, of course, medical officers come in and train for snake bite, those who are specialized in treating bites from those particular species. So when people heard about this, service being available for snake bite, we started seeing a lot more numbers of snake bite coming to the hospital. And we said, we've never seen this before. And when we are asking guardians and patients, they say, no. Before there was always snake bite breaking the villages. Almani workload died of the less. But the thing was that because we didn't know that there was something, the service like this was there, it was almost like a death sentence for us. Why bother trying to find 150 kina to get on a PMV to come in and just die? May as well just snake bite, you die with the less stuff. So that was what was unfortunately happening. And you only notice when you go out into the communities and do a bit of first aid awareness to the communities, and then a bit of health training for the health workers at those facilities. Some basic things that they can do to keep the person alive, or to even diagnose what type of snake bite it was before coming or calling for help. And yeah, that was, that was something that we noted well, let's say, because people gave up on the health system, that there was no way to get help. They just said, if snake bite us, bankla just application and die. And there's many stories around that. Of course, we went to one village where there was a rugby match going on a Sunday, Saturday, something like that. And we stopped to talk to the people there and say about, about, the first aid for snake bite and what do you do? Do you know that there's a service? And we're talking to them, and then somebody comes and says, "Oh, there's someone in one of the houses there. He got bitten by a snake, and he's just ready to die. He's just waiting." Really? So we went to check, and the person was just literally, the people had already come crying or waiting for the person to die, thinking that there was no help, and they were along the main freeway, main highway, sorry, to go to, that we could easily get on a PMV, but because people accepted that you won't get any treatment, or that they thought in their minds you won't be treated, you'll just die. This was the point of going. And these are rural people too, so like 20 kina is a lot of money for them, 50
Yes.
kina. And they were the ones that were affected the most, so um, we wanted to produce a product that was both affordable, cheap, and in the long run, we were going to, have an agreement with the institute in Costa Rica, and they had agreed that we will produce at a very minimal cost for maybe like a 5-year period. And then while that 5-year period is happening, we also train your young Papua New Guinean scientists to develop your own antivenom in the country for your own needs. So they really wanted to reach out to another developing country with the same or similar demographics, if you will, or epidemiology for the, for snake bite.
And maybe transfer the
That,
technology and skill set.
exactly. So in that 5-year period where, we are possibly our health department buying from Costa Rica the product, uh, they could be also training our young scientists to actually make the product in our country eventually after 5 years, something like that. So, that type of exchange and collaboration would have been really beneficial, and you really need government support in that as well, to really push some of those things. I remember doing an interview on, I think, Kalang FM time, and I think the Secretary for Treasury also came on and said, look, there's funds available. These are the type of things that we like to fund, and we'd be happy to get involved in. And if you're saving a life, you guys are doing a really good job at the NGO that you set up. So yeah, I didn't mention, but through that funding, we set up a snakebite research NGO, non-profit, non-governmental organization called Charles Campbell Toxinology Center. Charles Campbell was one of the first clinicians in PNG who was looking at snakebite a few decades ago. So it was on his honor that he named it the Charles Campbell Toxinology Center. And not toxicology, if I can just add in there. Toxinology is a study of toxins from animals and living things, whereas toxicology is to do with industrial toxins and poisons.
Right.
Yeah. So toxinology was what we were doing.
Right.
So yeah, so basically that's where I was doing this clinical trial and this research and doing multiple things. And it was in 2013 that we actually used some of the funding to actually say, look, let's sponsor 2 students, young Papua New Guineans who want to use snakebite as a research tool to learning, methods and techniques to going. And that's what we did. We did a bit of a selection, and we put out an ad for any students wanting to join and be part of this snakebite research, and we could go from there. And so we got 2 people. One was from Millen Bay, where they of course have taipans there as well in Millen Bay. And then another one from Oro. And they, Oro, we have Deteras and small-eyed snakes, and brown snake, New Guinea brown snake. It's only found in Oro. So the 2 of them joined us in 2013. One of them had to pull out of studies. I think he started, he had other things. He started his family and other things. he pulled out, but Ben Bande joined us then at that time, and we've gone on from strength to strength, working closely together. And almost everywhere we've gone, we've just been working as that team everywhere. And sometime later on, so Ben was the one that really coined the term for us, that he made this small phrase for us. Nam kirap na imtogo sem, for us, yeah, we are doing more than venom. We're doing uh, we're doing lab work. We're doing snakebite ambulance retrieval. We're actually testing the blood of our snakebite patients, and actually being trained how to run this coagulation machine, profile machine that we had. We're doing venom work, DNA work from the venom glands, venom work itself, chemistry, advanced chemistry, looking after the snakes itself. And then also when our small team grew, looking at things like the business end of things, payroll, other things as well. So even visiting government agencies to get things done. So registering the vehicle, servicing everything. And so Ben's coined this term, we do more than venom. So both of us have always maintained that term for us, that we're always doing more than venom.
It's like it becomes your tagline now, your motto.
Yeah, it sounds like a motto, and we both of us use it in our CVs and things everywhere we go, because that's basically describes us. We are adaptable to wherever we go, and try to fit in, make things work for our patients. So we love
Like,
working with snakes, and yeah, it would be like you'd work during the week. Towards the weekend, they would say, guys, let's go for a snake hunt so then we'd go to the community, the first aid talks, and then look for snakes. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess you never know what life turns out for you, and with the passions and hobbies and things that you're interested in. And, I got to love snakes a lot. I describe them as beautiful creatures, the color, some of them. And then just knowing, some of the little bit of information and what's unique to PNG2, and now even more knowing the toxins and how useful they could be in various sectors as well, like the cosmetics industry, biopharmaceutical industry, and apart from it, using venoms for production of antivenom. Thank you. Yeah, it's been a really good journey so far for me. Experiencing another part of the world here in Abu Dhabi, in the United Arab Emirates. I came here last year, March 2023. With Ben, of course. Together we came. We had planned and said, let's go together. Let's do this. And so, with our CCTC, unfortunately, our NGO, we had to close it down. There's most of the services because of there was some things from University of Melbourne, and perhaps some local support as well that was needed. But anyway, we scaled down services to only be redistributing the current antivenoms from Australia to where it's needed in the country. And that program is still going on, I think, together with DFAT and the Department of Health, and the two staff that we left behind. From that, Ben and I had gone to ExxonMobil, to ISOS, International SOS, and we were removing snakes from their plant site, the ExxonMobil processing plant site, LNG, in Papalele. And we stayed there for about 2 years before we had an opportunity here in the Emirates, so they were looking to set up a venom production facility, or anti-venom production facility, basically.